All right, so I'm excited to share with all of you. This is my hip flow, and so the hips are these joints here, and they comprise mostly of muscles that attach to the torso and then run down into your thighs. So this isn't so much about the joints per se, although the joint capsule will get exercised, but it's about these big muscles that we have. So these are the largest muscles we have in our body. They are responsible for our locomotion, a lot of our mobility. If you think about how your body works, the weight of your whole body is basically moved and borne with these muscles here. And in modern life, there are two things happening. One is we use these muscles to move. So they're used a lot compared to the other muscles in our body. And then we sit a lot, and that's really bad for the joints and the hips and the muscles in the hips and the low back. So as modern people, it really is helpful for us to stretch these muscles out on a regular basis, whether we're active, because if we're active, they become tight, or we're sitting a lot. And most of us do both. We'll sit all day and then we'll go to the gym, or we'll go rock climbing on the weekend or something like that. So that's kind of like a recipe for really, really tight muscles. And that's what a lot of Westerners do, or they run, they go home and then they run to try and lose weight. And so all of those activities that are popular for us, with the exception of like yoga is becoming popular, but everything else, all that running, climbing, biking, all those things that we like to do, CrossFit, squats at the gym, those things are going to create even more tension. And then all the sitting you do at your desk is also creating tension. So this is a great remedy for that, and that's what we're going to cover today. Let's start with a very simple, common posture. You've probably all done this pose with me before, and this is the half butterfly. So we'll bring our right leg out straight, left foot to the inside of the thigh. And then I know it's very tempting to try and grab the foot and yank or pull yourself down, but that long term may not be very good for your back. Okay, so we want to feel stretch here. We just relax. We feel the stretch here. You might feel a little bit in your back too. That's okay. But see my hands? I actually put my hands upright, so I'm not doing this kind of thing. It's okay to hold the foot, but usually the temptation is to start pulling. And I think you might find that if you're not paying attention, you're going to start pulling yourself down. So my recommendation is just palms up, relax, let your head hang. Now, if you need some support, feel free to place something under your forehead, forearms, or under this left knee, like a block or a folded blanket or something like that. There's no problem with doing that, okay? So you can do that at any time. But if you don't need support, my recommendation is just let your body be pulled by gravity. That's what gives you the stretch. You can relax. There's no particular way that you need to breathe as you do this. You can just let gravity pull you into it. You can breathe naturally, okay? And we'll be here for the full 5 minutes today. All right, so let's switch sides. Same idea. This is half butterfly. And please remember that there are a few things we always want to check anytime that we're doing a posture. The first and most important thing is that we feel that it's safe for us to do. The second thing to check is that you actually feel the effect in the target area. Most postures have one or two areas that we're trying to influence. So in the hamstrings in today's case. Okay, and then the final thing to consider is just, again, making yourself relatively comfortable. So again, blocks under the forearms, forehead, under the knee. If necessary, you may be completely comfortable without them. I am. But if that would help you, it can be important because sometimes if you're too uncomfortable, you're not going to hold the posture for the whole time, or you're going to be moving and shifting. It's okay to move on occasion to adjust things, but sometimes if we're uncomfortable, we just move because we feel anxious or because we are so uncomfortable. So generally speaking, the more stillness in this practice, the better it's going to be, the more effective it's going to be. So you want to just try and really relax, let your body be still. Think of it as like you're receiving something. So if you enjoy massage, then imagine if while the person is massaging you, you're constantly moving and shifting around and doing things. It's going to be difficult for you to receive that massage. The massage therapist is going to have difficulty working on you. So this is a similar thing, that the more still we are, the more we receive the benefits of the practice. The more that we're messing around and mucking about, probably the less benefit we're going to receive. Okay, so generally speaking, we want as much stillness as possible. We've got about 3 minutes left here. right, so let's take a little rest before we continue. We'll come up and then back onto our back. This is called a rebound. You notice again, I'm not moving. That helps me to feel the more subtle sensations that might be happening in my body as I release the posture. And then we can bring our legs in, give them a little squeeze, shake off the lingering discomfort there. And then we'll hinge up to seated. So hands under the hips, legs extend up. If there's any pain, you're going to bend your knees. Otherwise, legs are straight. We lift the head and neck. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale, lower the legs toward the ground. Hover for a moment. Inhale, legs come up. And exhale, the legs pull us up to seated. Okay, so moving on, we will do the kickstand next. And this is to stretch the inside of the thighs. You may want to come over toward the left edge of your mat, facing the long side of the mat. And then taking the right leg straight out to the right, as far away from your left knee as you can. And you're looking for a stretch in the inside of the right thigh, what are called the adductors. Now your feet can flex or point. The toes can point forward or up or away from you. Your left foot could be pulled in closer to your buttocks or pushed out behind your left knee. Your hips can rock back toward the left heel, or you can try keeping your hips over the left knee more. And my recommendation is that you experiment with all these different positions and you find the one that seems to give you, again, the safest, best, and most comfortable stretch into the groin area of your body. This is one that for me lately has been challenging. Our bodies change. I think if you've taken class with me before, you've probably heard me say that. And so as our bodies change, the way that we effectively are able to stretch our body will change as well. So depending on the activities you're doing, your age, your diet, my diet has changed a bit lately. I've given up certain things that I was eating that probably weren't that great for me, that were pretty inflammatory. And I've started trying to include other things that probably a little bit better for me. And that could be part of the change that I'm feeling in my body. So our bodies really are very fluid, and the inputs, the food and the movement that we put into our body will change our body either gradually and sometimes immediately. So that's going to show up when we do our postures. So just because a posture used to be great for us doesn't mean it will always be that way. We're almost about halfway through this posture. Let's switch sides. Call this one kickstand. It's a variation of what's called half frog. And we are targeting the adductors, the inside, right in here, also known as the groin. Okay, so actually I'm getting a really good stretch right here, so I might stay here for a bit. Even though this is much more work, for me this is I'm really feeling it. So again, the postures should adapt to what we're feeling in the moment. It's not about feeling good necessarily. So again, when I say adapt to what we're feeling in the moment, in our culture we tend to be so obsessed with pleasure and feeling good and feeling comfortable. Really, that's the word, is comfortable. And so we go out of our way to be comfortable. And it really can get to a point where it interferes with us being healthy and getting the most out of our life, out of our bodies. So exercise, some people enjoy it, many people don't. But generally speaking, it is good for us. And so whether we like it or not, it's good for us, even if it makes us very uncomfortable. And so yoga is very much the same way. Yoga actually isn't specifically exercise. So the best way to think of yoga is exercise can be yoga, but yoga is not exercise. So if you're new to yoga or these kinds of concepts, then you're probably used to thinking of a yoga studio and a yoga teacher as someone who teaches postures and exercises. And that's true. But in India, where yoga is from, you can go to something that says yoga, and you can go and you'll hear somebody lecture. Or someone will read from an ancient scripture. Or they might have you sit down and meditate. Or they might have you do breathing exercises. You might even pray. So all of these are forms of yoga. These are all yoga practices. The postures, like we're doing today, are also yoga practices, but they're not the only ones. They just happen to be the ones that are popular in modern cultures like ours. So we tend to think of, okay, that's what yoga is, but it's really just one very small part of yoga, and it's the popular part right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best part or it's the most important part. Not a bad way to think of it is for most people, it's the introduction to yoga. And so if you think of school, and you start with, grade school, as you go higher and higher toward more advanced degrees, there's less and less people in school, right? So as you get into a graduate program, if you get into a PhD program, you have less and less people in your class. And that's often how yoga is. Lots of people do the postures, and then fewer and fewer people do the more advanced techniques. But in my experience, the more advanced techniques are the ones that very often have the greater impact. In a very simple way to think of it is yoga is really just about being happy and being fulfilled in life. And how do we do that? How do we find that? Postures are a small part of that, and then there's much more to it from there. Got about just 30 seconds left here. right, so let's go ahead and come out of that. I recommend a child pose, which is like this, just bringing your knees together. Okay, and from there we'll come up into a tabletop. Let's do a little bit of marauding bear. And then when you're done with that, you can tuck your toes and come into a down dog. Just get a little bit of movement in there, get some blood flow. And then we'll transition into the sleeping swan. So our right knee toward the right wrist, the right foot over to the left side of the mat. Now the knee can point forward or out to the side. The hips are down and back. Okay, the hips can rock to the left or to the right. The right foot can be closer to the left hip or pulled closer to the front edge of the mat. You can stay up in your hands. Most people prefer to come down. And again, feel free to support your forehead, forearms, hip with a block or a folded blanket. Okay. And again, we'll be here for the full 5 minutes. We want to feel it right out here. And we want the knee to be free of any kind of pain. So just check your knee, check your ankle, and make sure that they are pain-free, okay? Okay, so let's switch sides. This is the sleeping swan. We come in on the other side here. And again, just check that you feel it in your left hip and that your left knee and ankle are happy with what you're asking them to do. And then we just here for 5 minutes. There's nothing else we need to do but just receive the benefits again. All right, so we're going to unwind from there. And you can just rest back on your back for a few moments. Then we can give our legs a little squeeze, shake it out. And then this time hinge down. We'll come into the cat tail. So we'll bring our left leg up toward the ceiling, drop it over to the right, prop the head up on the right hand. You'll see I'm moving my right leg as far back as I can. Then I reach back, I grab the foot and pull the heel in towards my buttocks, and I should feel stretch the front of my right thigh. Okay, you see I've noticed I bent my left knee. It can be straight or bent, and it can be closer to your face. Generally, the straighter it is and the closer to your face, the more intense the stretch in your right thigh will be. You also notice I'm pulling my foot in. Another option is to kick it back like that. I like pulling it in, however. And then you can lay your shoulder back toward the ground, your left shoulder. You can continue resting your head on your hand or your upper arm or a block. Okay, so lots of options as usual. And I recommend you explore those options to find the one that is optimal for you today. Okay, so gradually making your way to the other side. Again, this is called cat tail. And you want to feel the stretch at the front of your left thigh. Those are your quadriceps and hip flexors. Okay, so let's go ahead and unwind back onto our back. We'll rest for a moment. And then you can bring your legs in, give yourself one last shake out. And then when you're ready, unwind onto your back, feet comfortably apart, arms in any comfortable position, head centered, chin tucked in slightly, and eyes closed. And for the next 6 minutes, try and just allow your body to be still and rest.